Good morning to all of you, and welcome. It's my pleasure, of course, to welcome all of you here, our alumni, our students, parents, friends of the university, to this gathering, the second Global Forum. I would like to extend a special welcome to some of our trustees, including Chairman Russ Ramsey, who actually earned his BBA from the School of Business at the George Washington University, Maria Bonetti, an alumna of the Mount Vernon College, which, if I might editorialize a bit, my wife and I now reside as Provost of the George Washington University. We also have with us George Weldy, who earned an MBA from GW, BJ Penn, also a School of Business alumnus, and Omar Woodard, a double alumnus, who earned a BA and MPA from the university. And of course, to any of the other trustees who may be here for this fantastic event, welcome. As many of you know, we have several distinguished guests with us today. Later, we'll have the honor of hearing from Haiti's First Lady, Elizabeth Preval, and she'll speak about the reconstruction efforts in Haiti, and especially about education and health reform. We're honored here as well to have with us His Excellency Dr. Anwar Gargash, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs of the United Arab Emirates, and who is an alumnus of GW. Carlos Slim, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Telmex, Telcel, and America Movil, and a recent recipient of the GW President's Medal, and former U.S. Secretary of the Treasury John Snow, who is an alumnus of our law school. We're also pleased to have with us today many of our deans and members of the university leadership. Those of you who happen to know, following this, I am relatively new to GW, having arrived July 1st. And it's been my honor to just join a team that includes many deans, several of whom actually started after I did. So we have a relatively new leadership team who is already making great inroads in advancing the agenda of President Knapp. But with us today are Deans Peg Barrett, Michael Brown, David Dolling, Michael Foyer, Lynn Goldman, Fred Lawrence, and Doug Guthrie. And we also have with us Vice Presidents Leo Chalupa, who's the Vice President for Research, and Michael Morsberger, who is the Vice President for Development. This Global Forum has become, in a very short time, the university's premier annual international event. And it plays a major role in bringing together and strengthening the worldwide community of GW alumni. And as you saw in that video, that's now over 225,000 people. The event's designed to engage the larger GW community and to showcase our university's intellectual capital. And this morning, our panels will focus on two timely, critical issues that affect the world: global finance and global women's issues. Each panel has incredible depth of experience, drawing upon our highly talented faculty and our programs in international law, international business, international studies, and public health. At GW, we deeply understand that education in this century must be global. Students expect it, their families expect it, and frankly, to be a great university must necessarily mean to be a global university. GW's incredible strength in the international arena comes from many aspects of our university's life. Our undergraduate and graduate programs often come with an international focus or perspective. We have a community of more than 2,000 international students, and as you saw in the video, they come from over 120 different countries. We place nearly 1,000 students every year in study abroad, giving an incredible number of our GW students that crucial experience of not just studying about a different place, but living in a different place. We have an internationally focused faculty and student body that consistently receives large numbers of Fulbright awards, most of which involve studying in different countries. As a newly arrived individual at GW, I can't tell you about the excitement that exists at this university. There's something very special happening at GW. This forum is just one manifestation of the huge range of incredible things that are happening at our university. So with that, honored guests, please join me in welcoming Dr. Stephen Knapp, now in his 4th year as the president of GW University.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Provost Lerman, and it is a real honor and a delight to welcome you. I saw a number of you last night. I know we have a very exciting day ahead. This is our 2nd annual Global Forum. Our plan is to alternate in future years between cities abroad and cities here in the United States. So we went from Hong Kong to New York, and we'll be announcing before too long the location of our 3rd annual Global Forum. But this is something we plan to continue into the future, and I think it's an excellent opportunity to bring together alumni, friends, parents, supporters of the university, partners, collaborators from around the world. Particularly delighted, I have to say, to be in New York City. New York and Washington, D.C., despite many differences, share the fact that they are both global centers of government, commerce, and culture, and are both very important to the George Washington University. In the New York metropolitan area, we have more than 15,000 alumni. We're surpassed only by the D.C. metropolitan area in the concentration of our alumni, and New York happens to be the most represented metropolitan area among our undergraduate students. More than 1,700 undergraduates this fall are from the New York metropolitan area. That's about 1 out of 6 of all of our undergraduate students. Well, at the same time that we are very happy to be here in New York, of course, our occasion is to look through our work in Washington and our presence here in New York to look beyond to the world and the many important issues with which we're all challenged these days. And I have to say that I'm particularly pleased that you had an opportunity to hear First Lady Michelle Obama's speech, an excerpt from her speech on the National Mall. You know, every year we gather 25,000 strong on the National Mall between the Capitol and the Washington Monument, where we have some 5,000 graduates and their families. And this year, we were challenged, last academic year rather, by the First Lady when she said at the beginning of the year that if we did 100,000 hours of public service in the community, she would be our commencement speaker. Well, we ultimately did 163,980 hours, not that we were counting. And she was indeed there. Thank you. And what you heard her say was that, first of all, she talked a great deal about what our students and our entire university community was involved in public service, and she gave very concrete examples that had been given to her by students writing to her about the challenge, or by beneficiaries of what our students were involved in the community who wrote to her and spoke about how much they appreciated the efforts of the university in their communities. But she very much emphasized, and you heard her say this, she said, keep doing what you're doing, she told our graduates, but take it global. Take it global. And that's the phrase that I think is particularly apt and inspiring this morning. So I want to tell you just a little bit about how George Washington University faculty and students take it global every day through their teaching, research, discovery, and service. So just a few examples. Our School of Business is a global center for academic research on how business can contribute to world peace. Thanks to the school's Institute for Corporate Responsibility, directed by Professor Timothy Fort, George Washington was the first business school in the United States and only the 2nd worldwide to offer a certificate program in business ethics for MBA students. This program grew out of the United Nations Principles of Responsible Management of Education and allows students to expand their knowledge of ethics beyond the school's core emphasis on corporate responsibility. Right now, Professor Fort co-chairs a new commission at the United States Institute of Peace, soon to be our neighbor in Foggy Bottom, and that commission will bring together leaders from the academic, military, foreign service, and business communities to study how businesses worldwide can help promote peace. Professor Fort also heads a new partnership with the Aspen Institute that will focus on the role of business school faculty in promoting peaceful solutions to global problems. Another example, this time a student, Anna Phillips, a 2008 graduate of the Elliott School, traveled to Uganda during her sophomore year to participate in a dialogue between American and Ugandan youth. While there, she noticed that sports programs were open only to males. So Anna, a GW rugby star, saw this as a chance to make a difference. Through a project that she developed for her Peace Studies class, in January 2006, she founded a new organization called Girls Kick It. And that's a program that uses community-based soccer teams to empower and build confidence in young women who suffered rape or other trauma during the Ugandan Civil War. Anna is the program's executive director, and along with several staff members and volunteers, provides more than 300 girls and young mothers with training, coaching opportunities, funding for international travel to tournaments, and support on such issues as HIV and recovery from the trauma of the war. After graduating from George Washington as an undergraduate, she received a Fulbright scholarship to study the role of women in Uganda. She's since returned to GW to pursue a master's degree in international development studies, and I'm delighted to say she's with us at the Global Forum, and you'll have an opportunity to hear from her directly during this afternoon's panel discussion on the global status of women. Another example, after the devastating earthquake that struck Haiti last January 12th, our entire university community came together to support the relief and recovery efforts. This past July, a group of George Washington medical and public health students traveled to Haiti with GW physicians, saw more than 800 patients over the course of 4 days during a Project MediShare medical mission. The trip was an outgrowth of our long-standing partnership with Project MediShare, which since 2004 has been sending our students and faculty to Haiti to provide health education and medical services and to develop the healthcare infrastructure in several communities. That's just one example of how George Washington students and faculty are contributing to the rebuilding of Haiti through academic exchanges, service projects, and research programs. We're fortunate to be guided in our efforts, and indeed honored to be guided in our efforts, by the First Lady of Haiti, Madame Elizabeth Préval, here with us today, who earned her MBA from George Washington and is also the parent of a freshman student. We're deeply honored that Madame Préval has joined us for the Global Forum and look forward to her keynote address during today's luncheon. One last example. A few weeks ago, our Institute for Middle East Studies, led by the Kuwait Professor of Gulf and Arabian Peninsula Affairs, Ambassador Edward Skip Ghanim, organized a day-long conference entitled Oman 2010, 40 Years Building the Future. The point of this forum was to examine the development of Oman since Sultan Qaboos's ascension to the throne in 1970. The conference attracted a distinguished list of speakers and attendees, including the Secretary General of the Omani Ministry of Affairs, the Omani Minister of Higher Education, the U.S. Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, Queen Noor of Jordan, several members of the U.S. Congress, and even Sarah Shourd, one of the American hikers who was detained in Iran and was freed just days before the conference. As is the case with all such events at George Washington, our students were right there as active participants. And it's an extraordinary example of how being at George Washington University as a student really places you at the front row of history, in the theater of history. Now, these are just a few examples. Throughout the Global Forum, you'll hear more from faculty, alumni, parents, students, and friends about how they are making and learning to make a difference in the world. And as we engage the world from this nation's capital, we rely on our relationship with leaders who bring to life what our students are studying in the classroom. So to begin our Global Forum, it's my pleasure to introduce one of our distinguished faculty members, Frank Sesno, the director of the School of Media and Public Affairs. Frank regularly draws on his experiences as Emmy Award-winning journalist to bring national and global leaders to campus for conversations about the most important issues of our time. We'll have the opportunity to experience those conversations firsthand today as he conducts newsmaker interviews with two of our distinguished keynote speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Frank Sesno.